Hello there, YouTubers. This is CD Mangaka putting out a video for you guys today. I know it's been a while since I've really done anything with the channel, so I apologize for that. It's going to get a little more regular, and then it's going to take a dip. Just as some of these things going on, I'll be posting a video giving an update on my situation, what's going on in my life right now, as to why I kind of sort of disappeared for a little bit, and then why I'm going to disappear for a little while again. But regardless, let's get back onto the topic of this video, which is discussing the Season 6 changes to the ranked system that Riot is implementing. There's a lot of things going into Season 6 right now. It looks like it's going to be a huge ADC-based meta with all the item changes, with all the champion changes that are going on with it. There's a whole new objective on the top side of the map that teams can be contesting for. But, I want to put those aside because those are kind of venture into the realm of theory crafting, and we have to wait and see how all those elements play out in the game, as well as see what is actually released to us and in what state it is released in, and before we can really begin to evaluate what's going to happen with the game itself. What I want to talk about today, though, is the ranked improvement section of Riot's 2016 season update. So there's going to be a link in the description to the site, specifically to this thing, and I'm just, for clarity's sake, I'm just going to read from it rather than present it on my own screen, and I wanted to talk about some of the implications that come on in with this system, why I like this system, and why I think it could potentially be good for the competitive scene, and we'll just get right on into it. So the ranked improvements, so they go in and they kind of build it up. And Riot's whole premise is that, okay, League's competitive experience, and it's better and it is more competitive within a group environment, as in it's not when you're thrown together with a bunch of random people and you have to scramble, everyone's just doing their own thing, but rather when it's more of a team-based game, when it's more about a couple individuals, perhaps 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5, or maybe 5 out of 5, all, going in with a predetermined plan, things like that, where, or rather, people who are comfortable working with one another, and it's what's more comfortable than working with people that you know. So Riot is taking huge steps. First off, they got a fantastic looking client. It looks just absolutely gorgeous and amazing. So, it's just top-notch Riot, finally. Let's go ahead and just look at what they exactly mean by it. And they introduce this thing called dynamic queues. So they're replacing, I'll just go ahead and read, and this is all in quotes from the website. This upcoming season, we are replacing the solo duo queue with a dynamic group queue, where you'll be able to climb the ladder with any number of teammates, going from single participation all the way to a full team comp. There's no longer a penalty for players ranking together, so the benefits of grouping up will always prevail. You'll still need to be of similar rank to your queue buddies, and the system is designed so that groups will almost always play against similarly grouped opponents. If you're pre-made 5, you're going to play against a pre-made 5. But now you'll be able to compete the way you want to. Ranked teams will still be available for players who want to form a team of any skill level, as teams are judged on the skill of the static group rather than the sum total of the individuals. That said, this season we're also going to be improving the path to pro with less ranked team grinding, more focus on performing when it counts. Details to come. So, pulling from that and looking what's going on in there, Riot is doing 2 huge things to the ranked queue in the next season that are just going to be incredibly beneficial to both a casual player's experience and potentially a professional or a competitive player's experience. So with a dynamic queue, now you can queue up with as many people as you want, up to 5 for a whole team. So now instead of you going into solo queue and then having to deal with 4 random people, or you and a friend kind of going into a game with the mindset of it's you and me versus the other 8 people that we're playing with, both, on our team and against us on the enemy team. But now you can group up with an entire team and go on into the rank queues. Furthermore, with the rank queues, now you queue up for a particular role, and you can also then you fill in for 2 roles, so you say, I prefer this champion, and so then the game is going to match you up with, players who don't favor those champions, and so that way you actually get to play the preferred role that you want. And finally, when you go into the pick ban phases, they distributed some of the responsibilities around a little bit, but now you get to, before the pick ban phase begins, you get to lock in, hey, this is what I would like to play, and then you guys can talk, and then your team can talk about the comp issues with it, whether or not it's going to be appropriate. Okay, then if we're going to be playing these things, what champions are going to be overall, There's suddenly more time for discussion within the rank queue. but for the casual player. So let's go ahead and break down like what happens and why this is good for the casual player, though I think it's fairly obvious what exactly that is. Suddenly, you can play the roles that you want to get. You don't have to worry about like, hey, I've been grinding this one champion and, normal queues with my friends, and now I want to go into rank 5. I'm really good with this champion, and I'm last pick. And now I don't get to play the role that I want to, or, I get forced into these other things, or, suddenly people are locking in stuff, like last second locks, no one's talking to each other just because you all get queued up and whatnot, and then everybody kind of has their own plan and goes off a pick order, doesn't communicate a whole lot. I've seen a lot of dead chat rooms recently, but then again, I don't play a lot of ranked either, so keep that in mind. But now, suddenly, everything is communicated. You have to communicate these things. Hey, I play these 2 positions, and I'm gonna, these are my 2 preferred positions. Partitions, okay, kid. Hey, this is the champion that I feel like playing this game, or that I want to play this game. So can we try and draft so that I can get that champion, or things like that. Suddenly, there's this more with the structure in place. There's just more built-in communication happening, and so there's going to be less instances of these people who are going to be like, oh shoot, I wanted to be top lane, but now this guy took it. Okay, I'm gonna just go mid lane. Well, shit, now the second place guy took it. Now I'm uncomfortable in the role that I'm playing as, so I'm not performing at my best level in the rank ladder. There's gonna be less of these issues of, oh, but I wanted mid, just like the guy last pick belly aching, and then he's just gonna go feed because he didn't get the role that he wanted. Trivial, childish bullshit, really. So hopefully less of that just with the systems in place. There could be some, like potential abuse where a guy at the last second suddenly goes, ha, surprise, I am going to pick a champion I have not even mentioned. I really want to play this role and fuck all you guys. Although I don't see the incentive why. I don't think people, and maybe I'm just way too confident in the human race when I say this, I don't think people like queue up with the intention to troll. I just feel like they go in, they just want to play a game, they just want to do a certain thing, and then, suddenly this guy said something in chat a weird way, or his role got taken from him, and so I was like, you know what, fuck it, I don't care anymore, I'm just gonna go off the goddamn wall. But maybe I could be totally off on that. I'm just fucking airballing it, really. So going down into group bonuses, improved high-level matchmaking, excuse me, other stuff that's coming on in here. Now, let's talk about the competitive and the professional side of it when it comes to professional players or competitive players. Dynamic queue is something that's interesting to think about because, consider this. If you were going to, as a competitive team, practice as a team against, other competition, things like that, you have to do one of 2 things. You have to go for like maybe a ranked 5 team queue, or you have to schedule a scrim with another team. Now, ranked 5 queue has an issue where you're not going to necessarily run into other competitive teams that you're not going to run into other LCS caliber teams in there just because they don't necessarily queue up for those things. Everybody else has different things they need to work on, champions that they should be, practicing in solo queue, things like that. But with the group dynamic element, this can pose the question of, will we see professional teams like actually use this group dynamic queue? Suddenly we see less of the solo queue, just like 1 or 2 of them going off. Suddenly it's 3 of the team going off, 4 of the team, the whole team going off and queuing up together, so they can get more practice time as a team together. That's a possibility, in a way. Do I see that happening? Yes and no. I see it as a good way for coach to say, hey, I want you guys to all play together, we're working on these elements, and so suddenly you get all this extra capabilities of doing practice time just by queuing up with everyone that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten without scheduling a scrim. Now, the level of competition that comes from that is questionable, to say the least, but at least you can put the team together and have them practice within a solo queue environment that, it's a little bit different from it. That being said, though, the one thing that is the issue with competitive teams using a group dynamic, the dynamic group queue as a 5-man team is that you don't know who you're going to run into. And so if you're trying to practice some strategy that you're going to be using against one of the enemy teams that you're going to be playing, okay, like say, for example, Cloud9 is going to be playing TSM in like week 4 of the LCS, something like that, and they, it's like, hey, like their analysts have been looking, it's like, oh, hey, TSM has like these issues here, so we can use these champions and target this strategy, and we're going to try that. Okay, and the team practices it, and then, they're get into a queue and they don't see the enemy team, and then they lock in their comp, they lock in what they're going to practice, and then the queue opens up, and then there's all of TSM on the other side, and suddenly it's like, well, shit, we're literally showing our strategy against these guys. So there is that issue of information getting leaked out, just in the sense that teams want to. There's this culture in scrims where you don't talk about the scrims outside of your team. You don't mention like, oh yeah, they've been playing these champions. You don't leak scrim information. It's kept confidential and private. And so you could go to other teams that you're not going to be playing soon and scrim against them, and then have this safe practice where the enemy team that you're playing isn't going to get this insider info on you and suddenly be able to prepare for a counter strategy to your strategy. It brings into mind an abridged scene, but I'm going to pass on that right now just in case you guys wouldn't get that reference. So there is sort of that part to it of, would teams actually group up in a rank queue to do these things? Now, that being said, if they just want to practice solo queue together and they just want to be competitive within it, not really be like having the coach over them like, all right, you guys, we're going to play the secret comp now. Just like, I want you guys to practice these champions together. Just go on ahead. Then, maybe we could see something like that. But even then, that holds some risks into it. So in the competitive sense, as far as professional players go, I think that there are some interesting practice options, and this now opens up for those players. But whether or not we're going to see this become main sort kind of a thing, or if I don't, let me just put it like, let me put this out there. I don't see scrims just going away because of this. I think scrims are still going to be something that are scheduled. I don't know if maybe teams will think that they need to scrim less just because they can practice just as much together, or if teams will just practice all the time like this and then suddenly there's better teamwork just because they're playing more games together. It's a very interesting thing that I'm excited to see how it plays out. I see benefits that a professional team can have when it comes to this thing, but I also see some reasons why they wouldn't exactly pick up on it. But as far as the casual player goes for this kind of change, then I think it's absolutely perfect. And just to relate some of the points that are in common between the two elements, okay, a casual player can now queue up for the preferred champion that they want, but now a professional player can queue up for the role that they're trying to practice, and then they can consistently look to get that role they are playing, assuming that the queues in the higher level work to their advantage and work in the way that they're intended to within the system, and be able to practice the champions they're supposed to be practicing consistently. So that could overall help develop some of the scenes and some of the players develop their own talent. Now, is that going to be like the breakthrough industry that suddenly like takes NA and EU over like regions like Korea in terms of infrastructure and in training? Not really. Korea is also going to get access to it. And it's still up to the coaching staff to develop the team into build up their identity and get them to work together and effectively coach them to be a team. So that's one element that we also have to hit up on. But it's very exciting to see these changes coming on, and I think that it's going to make the game League of Legends actually a lot healthier for the community and a lot more abiding in the fact that suddenly now you just have this ability to make it more of a social activity, and then you can kind of like just group on together, and we might see an increasingly competitive ladder at the upper tops of it, just because suddenly those who are more serious about it can all now group together, operate as a 5-man unit, and go up against other units, and then they can battle their way on up there. So it's a very interesting system to see. I'm looking forward to what happens with it. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I know it's a bit of a ramble, kind of out of the blue, but I'm very excited about this particular change coming to the rank queue. I think it has a lot of benefits, as I've listed, and I'm hoping that it has a very positive impact on the esports scene, and that Riot's own management of their esports soon begins to match what they're beginning to do for their game. So one can pray.